Let's take a closer look at lockpicking in Too Many Bones. The need for lockpicking can come from a random encounter or any trove loot you manage to get your hands on. There are 4 lockpicking dice used in this process, consisting of 1 intuition die and 3 action dice. You can learn more about how these work on the Gearlock Adventuring Reference Guide or continue to watch this video. Each Gearlock will have an opportunity to make 1 lockpicking attempt per day on any discovered trove loot during the recovery phase. If you manage to solve only the first or second lock during an attempt, those locks remain solved, giving you a head start on your next attempt. Also, your lockpicking attempt can be used on someone else's trove loot instead of your own if you see that as more beneficial, or it's potentially closer to being unlocked. In this particular video, we're going to go over an actual unlocking of a trove loot card. At least we're going to attempt to. This particular trove loot card has a 3 lever, 1 trip, and 3 force lock. We're going to go after the first one, which is the 3 lever. We're going to roll all 3 action dice along with the intuition die. It's also handy to have your Gearlock Adventuring Reference Guide handy, as it will have the whole lockpicking or art of lockpicking section available to you, as well as the references as to what the die faces mean on the intuition die. We're looking to try to get 3 lever. What we have here is a 2 lever die. We also have a 2 trip and a 1 trip. The 2 lever die seems to be the most useful, and then we got this particular face on the intuition die. If we take a quick look over here, it says save 1, give an action die +1, and do not exhaust it if used on this lock. So we're actually going to use this to enable us to get a 3 lock, or 3 lever I should say, on this particular trove loot, which means we've unlocked the first lock. That's awesome. We also don't have to exhaust this die, where we normally would have to put it off to the side and go after the next lock using just these dice. But that ability of save +1 allowed us to keep it in hand going into the next one. The next lock says trip 1. So we're going to roll, and it looks like we got a 3 trip, a 3 trip, and a 1 force. Now we want to make sure that we pick the right ones here. We know that later on, the force die being gray would be the more useful one to have for later on. So this would be the one we'd likely want to lock in, because this would easily, at 3 trips, solve the 1 trip we need right here. We do have this, however, so we can take a look at what this one does. This one says convert. It says change the lock type, lock, trip, and force of 1 action die and use it. So we could actually go ahead and decide instead to use this particular die and change this over to from a 1 force to a 1 trip. And that would equal, or we would just change it automatically, and that would automatically equal this particular lock, meaning we've unlocked the second one. But at this point, this die is now exhausted. Now we only have these 3 dice remaining to try to get the very last one, which is a 3 force lock. We ended up getting a 3 trip and a 3 trip with this particular symbol, the last and final symbol, reroll. Reroll 1 action die and also the intuition die. That's pretty good. So we're going to be able to reroll this one and 1 more. Well, we're obviously going to re-roll this particular die because this is the force dice. It has 3 sides that are force based, and we want that one. So we're essentially looking for a good roll here. Okay, so we ended up getting a 3 trip. And this one right here is one of those saves again, a +1 save. Give an action die +1 and do not exhaust it if used on this lock. Sadly, this would bump us up to 4 trip, which is not what we need because we need 3 force. So our lockpicking attempt has now ended, but we've successfully unlocked the first 2 locks, and the next day, when we make the next attempt on this trove loot, we can start on lock number 3. Also, players on your team or other Gearlocks can now attempt from this particular lock.